1. Okay.
This is the ordinary council meeting, Tuesday, 25 January 2022, due to start 2 p.m, starting about 2:03 p.m. Welcome to councillors and staff, and I declare the meeting open at 2:02 p.m. Glamorgan Spring Bay acknowledges the traditional owners of our region and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Now, as I understand it, all councillors are present and all the directors of council and the general manager are present. There are no apologies. I want to raise something. I was given an apology, or I was noted as an apology at the meeting of 14 December, both the annual meeting and the ordinary council meeting. I just want to let councillors know that I made a formal written request on the day before, 13 December, to the general manager. It was made in writing for leave of absence from the council meeting scheduled for the 14th of December, both those meetings. The request was made by me as mayor. It was delivered to the general manager on 13 December, and under his obligations under the Local Government Meeting Procedures Act 2015, it was his obligation to prepare the agenda and to include any requests for leave of absence. It was, by some form of mistake, omitted from the agenda for the meetings of the 14th December, and likewise omitted from the agenda for the council meeting today. I seek approval for that request so that the council records can be rectified. It will be it's a request for approval that has to be decided upon by the council members. This is not a question of seeking a retrospective leave of absence. It's a question of rectification of a mistake. And I seek at this stage, council's approval for that request for leave of absence. The reason why the request was made is because on the evening of Monday, the 13th of December, I suffered a very, very severe attack of food poisoning. I could hardly move, and I managed to lose 2 stone in weight between that evening and the following evening. And on the Wednesday morning, the day after the meeting, I was virtually 100% recovered. So I seek the leave of absence because a mere apology has some adverse effect under the Local Government Act, whereas a leave of absence is in fact something that has no adverse effect. So I ask you to make a decision on this request now. I abstain from voting.
So how do you want to handle this, Mayor?
Just indicate by majority or otherwise whether you approve the request that I've just outlined.
By voice or by hand?
Well, I think probably by hand would be best if it can be seen.
Right. So I'll start.
Can I just ask a question? I'm unsure how this is to proceed because an approval of leave of absence should be by motion, and it's not in the agenda. So is it being added?
Well, that's a fair request to raise the issue, but you see, if such a request never gets to the agenda, it never can be dealt with. It was made beforehand. It's the General Manager's obligation to put it in the agenda. Not all of us are perfect and sometimes mistake is made. I asked you to merely approve. But I think that it does not require a motion as far as I can tell, and I would be content with an approval by show of hands. If someone wants to take the matter to the Supreme Court on the grounds that it wasn't all technically done, that's their right.
Just through you, Mayor, one question. Will that affect the recommendation for the minutes of the December meeting? Was there anything in those minutes, I can't recall, that says you were absent or approved absence, or I'm just wondering about that.
There was an apology in those minutes.
Right, okay.
It can't occur, how do I put it? It can't rectify what was actually, it can't change what was actually done, but it can rectify a mistake.
Right, thank you.
So I don't think it have any effect on. Please go on.
If I could just make a comment. Yep, I take full responsibility for the fact that the leave of absence wasn't endorsed or requested at the December meeting and the AGM. The Mayor did notify me the night before in writing via a text message that he had come down with a rather violent and unforeseen illness. I should have the next morning at the meeting, or the next day at the meeting, notified or reminded the Deputy Mayor, who was chairing the meeting, that we needed to seek Council's endorsement to support the Mayor's leave of absence. That didn't happen, and I take responsibility for that. I have since noted and discussed with the Mayor Section 39 of the meeting regulations, which I think it's clause 3, which actually state that leave of absence cannot be granted retrospectively. So I just remind Council of that. I think the Mayor's request to have a show of hands and also a audio record as a note is and that will be recorded in the minutes is appropriate.
Well, thank you, General Manager. I'm not pointing the finger at anyone about this. Mistakes are easily made. And I've got the folder in front of me with the rules and regulations and acts of parliament and statements of intent and expectations and all that sort of thing. And it runs to, I would imagine, hundreds of thousands of words. One can't be up to date with all of it. The issue of retrospectivity is quite correct, but if one took the approach that should a particular person by malice deliberately omit something, then the courts have a right to rectify, and if there was malice and it was deliberately omitted, it would mean the council could never deal with the matter. So that's why I ask for it to be done in this manner by a show of hands and adopt the request. I would be content with that, and thank you. I ask you to vote the way I requested.
That's all that was for the record. Okay, and Councillor Simons?
Yes, it has my support.
Thank you very much. I am embarrassed about that. I can tell you that it's not the best way in the world to lose weight. Now, are there any late reports?
No late reports.
Is there a declaration of interest or conflict from any member who might either personally or via a close associate as defined in Section 49 of the Local Government Act, or any conflict described in the Council's Code of Conduct? Has any elected member have such a conflict or interest?
Yes, I do.
Councillor Green.
What's that, Councillor Brini, would you let us know?
Yes, I have a conflict of interest or an interest in item 8.5 Swansea Courthouse Management Committee 2021 Annual Report. I'll be leaving the meeting at that time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Anyone else?
Yes, Mayor, I have a conflict in confidential item 2.2 as I declared at the December meeting.
Thank you very much. Can I have, now, next item is confirmation of minutes. Can I have a motion for the meeting 14 December?
Deputy Mayor.
I'll move.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on Tuesday, 24th of December 2021 at 2 p.m. be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Is there a seconder?
Sorry, it's 14th of
Yes,
December,
Brini.
2021.
Thank you.
14th of December 2021.
Yes,
Deputy
thank
Mayor?
you. Yep.
Councillors, can I
Thank
just
you.
ask when you're moving or seconding in a motion that you verbalise that, so we can just pick it up in the recording.
Yep.
Thank you.
I put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? I declare it carried unanimously. Next item is 2.3, date and purpose of workshop. That's the workshop 11 January 2022. Can I have a motion?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brini.
I move that council notes the information.
Is there a seconder?
Yes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Woods.
Can you verbalise, Councillor Browning? Otherwise, you get lost.
Okay. I tried.
Well, I've taken as mover Councillor Browning, seconder Deputy Mayor Jenny Woods. Is there any discussion? I put the motion. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Next item is item 3, public question time. As you can see from the written agenda, there are questions on notice and there are responses from the General Manager. And they can be seen on pages 7 to 9 of the agenda that is on the web. There is questions without notice. That's item 3.2. There is a question without notice. I think it's item, is it 3.3, General Manager? Response to previous questions without notice taken on notice?
It's 3.2, Mr. General Manager. Item 3.2.
3.2.
So this council is in relation to a question from Mr. John Heck, and it's about the land that's been subject council debate recently, the land in Tribunna. His question is, Mr. Heck's question is, please provide how much land tax in dollars has the ratepayer paid since 2013 on the lots included in development application 2021/32, the lots proposed for sale for $375,000. The total land tax paid in 2013 is 21,500, more or less.
Thank you, General Manager. As there are no other questions without notice,
Sorry,
we
Mr.
move
Mayor,
on
can I just interrupt? We
onto
have
item
Councillor
4,
Simons.
Planning Authority section.
We have Councillor Simons now.
Can I have a motion?
Well, he can hear it.
Councillor Simons, can you hear us?
Except
Yes, I can hear you and I can see you all.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
I think the next item is Planning Authority section. Can I have a motion, please?
Through Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
the matter, the councillors hopefully it came late in the piece, only a couple of hours ago, but by agreement with the applicant, that DA has been deferred to a later date. So you don't need to deal with it now.
That's application number 2021/231.
1000 Dalton Sands Road, correct.
Item 4.1 has been deferred. Is there now just trying to see if there's any other planning matter? I don't know whether there is.
No.
No, that's it. So what we're saying is council doesn't have to move into a planning section at the moment because of that withdrawal of that application. It's the only item in the planning authority section.
Thank you very much, General Manager. That piece of information I knew, but I didn't note it down. So we'll now go on to, I think it's page 26 of the agenda, which is
Page 31.
Board 5.1.
financial report.
I'm getting there. Yes, item 5, financial reports. There's a report from the Director, Mrs. Elise Blaine. Can I have a motion?
Yes, I'll propose a motion through you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robinson.
That council receives and notes the financial reports as attached to this report for the period ended 31st of December 2021.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Thank you.
That's Councillor Breeny. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes, I'd like to make some comments if that's all right.
Yes, please. So, Councillor Churchill.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that the three major documents seem to be indicate that things are travelling pretty well for council. The P&L is really looking good, and it's good to see specifically the materials and services are heading in the right direction. They've been a battle for us for a number of years, and now it looks like that's coming under control, which is a good thing to see. The balance sheet is looking good, and I'm really happy with the cash flows. And our chair of the audit panel, Mike Derbyshire, expressed similar views in the last audit panel meeting that things were travelling pretty well. So I think it's worth the community knowing that financially we're doing okay at present. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Churchill. Just for members of the public, P&L means profit and loss statement. For those that are not familiar with accounting terms, it's very nice to hear. I put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
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 Against? I declare it carried unanimously. The next item is section 24, committee meetings. And that's item 6. Can I have a motion, please?
Councillor Arnold, I'll move that the minutes of the Natural Resource Management Committee meeting held on the 8th of September 2021 be received and noted.
Thank you very much, Councillor Arnold. Is there anyone else who's going to second it? Do I see Councillor Robinson?
No, that wasn't me.
That's scratching your nose.
I was just scratching my face.
Councillor Simons, I'll second it.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Simons. Councillor Arnold, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, not at all. Thank you, Mayor.
Second, Councillor Simons, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I just say something? Mr. Mayor, can I just say something?
Yes, please, gentlemen.
Councillors will note the change between the September and the November meetings of the NRM in terms of the presentation of the agenda, the minute reporting. It's just a general administrative improvement that's worth noting. And at the last NRM committee meeting that I attended in part, there's recognition at the committee, and I think Councillor Arnold would agree, of those improvements that have been made. And I think Alex, the Director of Planning and Development, Alex Woodward, and other staff here at the office for their work around this. There has been a turnaround, and it's pleasing to see.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you
General
very much.
Manager, if I may, Mayor, I agree totally with the General Manager's comments. The improvement in the way the agenda was set out has been quite amazing, and I think the senior staff that have been involved in that.
May I say something?
Thank you very much. Yeah, yes, please. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge 2 things within the minutes of the meeting. The first one is Mr. Hayden Dyke's resignation. I'd like to personally send our thanks for his time on the committee over the years, and also Mr. Terry Higgs, who has been involved in the NRM team over the last 9 years. So I'd like to acknowledge and thank both those gentlemen for their time on NRM.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Woods and Councillor Arnold, for your comments. I endorse them both thoroughly. Any other comments? Well, I put the motion. All those in favour of the motion, please say aye and raise their hand.
Aye.
Aye. Against? I declare it carried unanimously. Now, item 6.2, the minutes of the National Resource Management Committee, 24 November. Can I have a motion, please?
Councillor Arnold. Councillor Arnold. Mayor, I think that it should be that the notes of the Natural Resource Management Committee meeting held on the 24th of November 2021 be received and noted, because it was not, there was insufficient people to have a proper meeting and therefore take minutes. So if they are, if you like, unofficial notes of the meeting, in my view.
So, Councillor Arnold, that's your motion, that the notes?
Yes, yes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the title of the title in the report in the minutes notes that they unofficial minutes.
I'm happy, Mr. Mayor. Yes, if I'm happy to insert the word that the unofficial minutes of the Natural Resource Management be inserted. I just think it needs to be obvious that it was not a formal meeting of the NRM at the time.
Thank you very much, Councillor Arnold. It's good of you to point it out.
Councillor
Do I have
Brady
a second
seconds that. Councillor
Thank
Brady
you,
seconds
Councillor
that.
Brady. Thank you, Councillor Brady. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you wish to discuss, Councillor Arnold, or do you wish to say anything in support of your motion?
No, other than to thank Mr. Woodward for his support of the NRM committee and the general manager over the last few months. I think Mr. Woodward has certainly been of great assistance to the committee since the changes. So I'd just like to acknowledge that.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Arnold. Councillor Brady, do you wish to, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Woods, do you wish to say anything?
Yes, if I may, Mayor, again, on page 47, 4.5, the roundtable discussion, Dolphin Sands ratepayers have approval to do native garden beds to show residents suitable native species to grow on the peninsula. Amanda, to work with Robin in this process. I'd just like to say that I feel is a very good initiative going forward.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Woods. Anyone else wish to say anything? Councillor Brady, I think you second the motion. Do you wish to say anything?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Well, I put the motion that the unofficial minutes of the National Resource Management Committee meeting held on 24 November 2021 be received and noted. All those in favour?
Aye.
Raise your hand.
Aye.
Those against? I declare it carried unanimously. Now, the next item on the agenda is item 7, information reports. There's a Director Works and Infrastructure report from Mr. Peter Porch. We've got a detailed comment here. As usual, first-class job, it seems to me, being done by our Works and Infrastructure section of the council. We're very lucky with the way the council's being run and these sorts of areas at the moment. Can I have a motion?
Yes, Mayor. Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Woods.
Thank you. I will move that council notes this information.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Was that Councillor Robinson?
Churchill.
I didn't see who the seconder was.
Councillor Churchill.
Was sorry, not loud enough.
Well, I'm not sure who did the second thing. Who was it?
Councillor Churchill.
I don't know still. Councillor Churchill. All right, Councillor Churchill, thank you. Is there any discussion on the matter?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, please, Deputy
Yes,
Mayor Woodward.
again, Mr. Porch is to be congratulated on a very, very well written and informative report. On page 51, I'd just like to note that the disappointment it is with the destruction of the QR coding around the place. And hopefully, you know, they'll get sick of pulling it out and it can stay where it needs to be.
I think some people might want a quick trip to the next life, Deputy Mayor Woods. Is that not correct?
Oh, no comment.
Through you, Mayor, yeah, I'd just like to concur with those comments and comments other people have made, in that when you look at the things that have been happening in this area for our council over the last, 3, 4, 6 months, it's really good to see works going on and repairs, and even when we've had some vandalism, that our works team have got straight onto it, and it's the sort of thing that our communities like to see, and the staff are certainly doing a good job.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robinson. Much appreciated. Yes, I didn't hit. Was that Councillor Simons?
Councillor Simons, yeah. Just a question, probably through you, Mr. Mayor, perhaps to the General Manager. I was just reading in the grant funded section on page 53. We've got a line there that says Bicheno Gulch Foreshore and Esplanade upgrade, and we've got awaiting approvals prior to final design. Could you just elaborate on what those approvals are?
I may defer to the director here, Councillor Simons. I stand corrected, but I think the approvals relate to environmental and cultural survey work. Is that correct?
That would be correct. We were waiting on consultation with parks over various elements of it before it gets to a stage of planning, submission to planning and associated public consultation through that process.
Thank you, Mr. Porch.
Thank you, Mr. Porch.
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, that the consultation stage before it goes to a final design, there is that is planned into the steps that will be taken.
So we provided a report or a strategy for consultation on these larger projects a few months ago, and this is intended to follow those processes. We're a little bit at the moment, in fact we had just emailed just this week really, with respect to how we actually manage that at the moment again, because we're all marked up and you know what's an appropriate process for actually being getting in front of people and having those discussions. We certainly want to do, and this is around those range of larger projects. We're at a stage where we really need to be putting those in front of people, having the discussions face to face over plans on a large table in public spaces. And the question was, what's the, you know, is that an appropriate way to do this at the moment? Is there another way? I don't know that there is another way, but we're grappling with that at the moment as to what's an appropriate methodology for doing that that more granular face to face in public open spaces.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Porch. It would seem to me as an aside or a comment relating to the question of consultation, if it's done in open air, it seems to cause little trouble. If a cricket match can be held in open air in Tasmania, I suspect the consultation for members of the Glamorgan Spring Bay residents and ratepayers could also be done. Thank you very much. Can I have a motion, please? Or have we've dealt the motion? We've got a motion, haven't put it, have we? I put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Again? Carried unanimously. Next item is page 54. It's item 8, Officers' Report requiring a decision. Now, that's from Mr. Woodward, the Director of Planning and Development. Can I have a motion, please?
Councillor Arnold, I'll move that council note the actions being undertaken by staff in relation to COVID safety requirements.
Is there a second?
Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Thank you, Councillor Arnold. Does anyone wish to speak to the matter?
Mayor, the only thing as the mover, I'd like to congratulate the General Manager and his whole team for the manner in which they have dealt with this whole COVID issue. I think they've done exceptionally well, and the safety plan that's presented here today does actually highlight the efficient manner in which they've undertaken this whole problem.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to say anything? Well, I want to say something. I understand that all staff members are now vaccinated, and they are to be congratulated for that. Let's hope it works effectively. I put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Right. Raise your hand. Right. Against? Carried unanimously. The next item is council advertising policy. Can I have a motion?
Councillor Browning,
Thank you very much, Councillor Browning.
I move that council adopts the council advertising policy as attached to this report.
Councillor Arnold, seconded.
Thank you, Carl. Councillor Browning, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Through the mayor, only it's self-explanatory, I think. Nothing more to say.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Arnold?
No, thank you, Mayor. As Councillor Browning said, it's self-explanatory.
Can I just, Councillor Breeny, please?
Please.
Could I make a comment?
Yes.
It's one of the things that I'm very pleased about when I deal with council matters at meetings is when I see something like the third paragraph where it says council's existing advertising policy was adopted in June 2019 and is now due for review. What that indicates to me is that the council staff are managing to keep abreast of when things are due and keeping policies up to date, and I appreciate that very much.
Well, Councillor Breeny, thanks very much. I adopt those comments. I wish to make some comment about it. There's the item on the first page of the report, guiding principle, communicate and explain council's decisions and reasons in an open and timely manner. I'd like, if it's in order for council, that the word understandable be put in after open. I don't make this comment frivolously because I do recall at the Community Connect session at Tribunna last held that there was some very good information given, but a number of professional men couldn't understand the terms we used, and one of them misunderstood what was actually being said because he wasn't familiar with the jargon. And I like to see things in simple language if it can possibly be used. So I'd like, if it's in order, for the word understandable put in after open.
Councillor Arnold, Councillor Arnold, Mayor, you're talking about where it says in under the guiding principle, communicate and explain council's decisions.
Yes.
There's no,
yes.
In my view, there's no need to put it in there because that's, to the best of my knowledge, straight out of our strategic plan. So the only way we can add a word into that would be when we amend our strategic plan. I might have that wrong, but I'm happy to be corrected by the General Manager, but I don't think we can add it.
No, that Councillor Arnold's observations are correct, Mr. Mayor. So that wording and the key foundation wording is verbatim out of our 10-year community strategic plan. When it comes time for review of that plan, then obviously things like this can change, but we stuck with this. My personal view is I prefer the word open to transparent in this context. But
I agree with that.
That wording is directly out of our current community strategic plan, verbatim.
Through you, Mayor, I guess we can hopefully have confidence in our management team that they will present information in an understandable way, even though that guiding principle doesn't say it. And I think as a group of councillors and council management staff as well, when we speak to the community at Community Connect sessions, we'll keep that in mind and make sure that we try and do that.
Well, thank you very much, councillors, for those comments. It was surprising to me when professional men at that Community Connect session obviously misunderstood what was being said. And I think we all ought to bear it in mind. I put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Please. Against? Carried unanimously. Item 8.3, Council Workshop Policy. There is a policy before us. Can I have a motion?
Councillor Woods,
Thank you, Councillor Woods.
I'll move that council adopts the council workshop policy as attached to this report.
Then is there a seconder?
Councillor Browning, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Browning. Councillor Woods, do you wish to speak to the report?
It's pretty self-explanatory. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Browning, do you wish to speak?
Through you, Mayor, all my comment about it would be that it's probably nice for the community to be able to see a policy on the workshops and for all the guidelines of how it's run and how it's presented and how it's not a decision-making forum is all there for everyone to be able to see is a good thing.
Thank you. I'd like to make some comment about it. I initially had some reservations about it because I think our workshops work pretty effectively and well. Everyone seems to have the opportunity to have their say, even if it means they have several turns at speaking, and we get some consensus out of it. And on reflection, I have to say I will support this. Please, I put the matter to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Item 8.4, National General Assembly. Now, I'm a bit bemused by this one. Can I have a motion?
Yeah,
Thank you, Councillor Churchill.
motion. I move that council considers the 2022 National General Assembly discussion paper and associated information as presented and submitting a motion or motions at the June 2022 NGA.
And Councillor Robinson will second that.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, I do. I'll be honest, I didn't spend a lot of time reading the attachments to this one, but I did go through the attachments, and because we did have a lot to do for this meeting. However, looking through those attachments, there are good examples there of issues that I believe that councils should become involved in. And, you know, in my mind, issues like affordable housing and all the issues around climate change, which we could go on for hours about. I think these things need to be brought into the local government forum, and this is probably a very legitimate and good way to do it. Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you. Anyone else wish to speak to the matter?
Yep, Councillor Robinson. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, I think it's really important, given that we're a fragmentedly governed country. We've got 3 or 4 tiers of government effectively, and I think anything that puts us in the national light and is a good thing, and if we can make a contribution, that's good, and if we can learn from the National Assembly as well, that's a good thing. So I think the bringing together of ideas and perspectives is a good thing.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Browning.
You're on mute, Annie.
Sorry, guys. Through
We
you,
can hear you.
through you, Mayor, I've just got a comment that I think it's a really good idea, as long as we're on the front foot with what motions we want to put up, so that we're not doing it a week out. So we think about, you know, important stuff and make sure we do it before the crunch. That's my only comment.
Councillor
Mr.
Browning,
Mayor.
is that a job you're putting your hand up for?
I'll put my thinking cap on.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. If
And
I
not give
can,
us an answer yet. Is that correct? Not give us an answer yet?
we've got enough time through you, Mr. Mayor, to because the General Assembly is in June. We've got enough time for council to submit ideas in the form of what would constitute a motion, and then for us to capture that in a report before June that gets endorsed by council and gets submitted for the General Assembly's consideration. So we've got enough time to do that, and Councillor Browning's point is valid. But I think the best way of doing it was if you want to submit items now, that's fine. We can collate all of them and put it in some form of report that gets endorsed as a motion from this council to the General Assembly in June.
Thank you, General Manager. That sounds like a good idea. All those in favour of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Next item, 8.5, Swansea Courthouse Management Committee Annual Report. I think Councillor Breeny does not want to become involved in this matter. Now, can I have
He's gone.
a motion?
I'll put the motion.
Councillor Churchill?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would move that Council receives and notes the Swansea Courthouse 2021-2022 annual report and endorses the Swansea Courthouse Management Committee Inc. to manage the courthouse building for a further 4 years until the 31st of December 2025.
Seconded. Councillor Browning, did I see you raise your hand? Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Look, probably stating the obvious, but this building is a very, very special building to the community. It's the history behind it, its heritage values. It needs to be taken care of. I am aware that it's actually not a cheap building for council to maintain. Well aware of that, but I do believe that the community would generally support us in maintaining this this building, and it has application. People are using it, and clearly from the reports, I was interested to go through the amount of use that it gets, and it does get quite a bit of use. So, yeah, I'd like to see it continuing, and I think that the committee has done pretty well over the last period since I've been on council, and hopefully will continue to do so, and that grant monies might become available over time to allow us to achieve a lot more with that building. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Councillor Browning, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Through you, Mayor, just to agree with what Councillor Churchill has said. It's a really important building in our community, and it needs to be respected and looked after. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment or a question through you to the General Manager. In the background overview report, it was suggested a consideration for the Courthouse Committee to become a Section 24 Committee of Council. So it says in that paragraph, the Courthouse Management Committee is not a Section 24 Committee of Council, but consideration should be given to become so to enable a degree of transparency and control over decisions regarding the site activities, finances, and any structural alterations that occur at the council-owned asset. So has this been discussed with the committee, or where is it at with regards to this report and going forward?
Through you,
General
Mr.
Manager.
Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So no, that hasn't been discussed. That hasn't been discussed with the committee, and that's why it was left out of the recommendation. We would like to engage with the committee going forward about those very things that Section 24 committees do achieve, particularly when it comes to looking after built assets. I think our hall committees, our Section 24 hall committees are a good example of how the community can play a significant role in managing infrastructure on our behalf. So it's for those reasons that we'd like to see this body incorporated as the Section 24 committee. The recommendation to extend the management of the building by another 4 years, I don't believe that impacts on that. We can enter those discussions with the entity whenever we can, or whenever we're able to. But we want to play, just like with all our Section 24 committees, and we obviously going to be reviewing individual committees as time goes on. We want to play a role in assisting them to achieve the best outcomes for the community, and that would be the case here. As Councillor Churchill pointed out, the courthouse is a rather expensive building to maintain it in usable order. We would seek to work with the committee to, first of all, identify upgrade works, etc., maintenance works, but also to seek external funding and not put a burden on council's budgets. So this is really, I hope, also a catalyst for us to start to engage with the Courthouse Management Committee, which we haven't done except for the ongoing routine maintenance. We haven't done at a higher level with them previously, I don't believe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Browning. Councillor Browning, we can't hear you.
Mute again.
Have you pressed mute?
Yeah.
Sorry, through you, Mayor. I've got dogs barking in the background. And we need to remember too that the reason that committee was initially formed was to save the courthouse. So, you know, for it to be looked at as becoming a Section 24 committee now, I think is a great steps forward. So that's all I'd like to say about that.
Thank you, Councillor Browning. Does anyone else have anything to say? I'd like to say something about it. Council leases that building from the state government on a long-term lease. I concur with all the thoughts about it so far. I do know that there are, from time to time, specific grants available to do particular stone and other works to heritage buildings from the state government. I do know of one private club in Hobart that obtained a substantial grant to do some stonework. I don't know how much that aspect has been investigated by the management committee or by anyone on, maybe some people on council or council officers know the extent of those grants, but I think it's worth an inquiry. And the second thing I'd like to say is that the maintenance probably does require a little bit of almost rebuild from time to time, but we don't necessarily have to spend all the money that we'd like to spend in any particular year. I put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Would someone ring up Councillor Breeny and ask him to turn his computer back on? Councillor Breeny? Is he here?
He's connecting, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Breeny
Thank
is
you.
connecting at the moment. We'll just wait a few moments. If you can unmute, if you can hear us, Keith, you just need to unmute. There we go.
Thank you.
Councillor Breeny, the motion was passed unanimously. A few positive comments were made. The next item is 8.6 Stormwater Plan. The author is Director Works and Infrastructure, Mr. Peter Porch. Can I have a motion?
Yes.
Councillor Arnold. Sorry, Councillor Robertson.
You go.
The council adopt the Glamorgan Spring Bay Stormwater System Management Plan as attached to this report and review the document no later than June 2024.
Thank you very much.
I'll second.
Councillor Arnold, is there a seconder?
Yes, I can second that, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Is there any discussion?
Yes, if I may, Mayor, the only comment I'd like to make is that it's very pleasing to see progress on this whole stormwater issue that we have in our municipal area, and I congratulate Mr. Porch and his team on getting it to this point.
And through I'd just like to say it's concur with Councillor Arnold's comments, and also say that it's really good to see that the four main issues in Orford are being addressed at the moment. And I know when I first came on the council, these were huge issues, and they still are, but it's good to see our council really getting onto it and making them a priority.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robinson. Does anyone else wish to say anything?
Thank you, Councillor Woods.
Yes, Councillor Deputy Mayor Woods.
Yes, so on page 65, the paragraph that starts the last 18 months. So it says the last 18 months has seen urban development intensify in this municipality with many developments underway. Each one will impact on the volume and transmission of stormwater from source to sea. Additionally, the change being observed, measured and responded to in the pattern of rainfall and its escalation of intensity raises the importance of developing and implementing systems of control and management for stormwater and the potential for flooding impacts. We have passed quite a few subdivision plans and the like over the last 3 years or so, and it was good to read in this report that that we are taking steps to mitigate, hopefully mitigate flooding downstream per se. In that regard, is that correct, Mr. Porch?
Yes, that's correct, Deputy Mayor Woods. We find that there are numbers of subdivisions which have had approvals which haven't progressed, and so we are limited with what we can do with some of them because they're working under permits that might have been done 5 or even 10 years ago. In the interim they may have had engineering design done to a level and sat dormant for a period. As we know, it's a very buoyant market at the moment, and so they're being activated and progressing. But certainly as new ones come in, we look a little bit harder than perhaps was done in the past, and again we're applying a bit more rigour than may have been done in the past, and not not to denigrate the efforts of the past, but just that these issues have become more prevalent and require a greater level of rigour to meet the current standards.
Thank you.
Any other queries or questions? All those in favour of the motion, please say aye and raise their hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Against? I declare the motion carried unanimously. Next item is (8.7) tender delegation to General Manager.
Councillor Woods.
Thank you.
So I'll move that council delegate authority to the General Manager to award the contract for the capital project Tribunna Road realignment Cenotaph RSL corner in accord with the Code of Tenders and Contracts process.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Councillor Breeny.
Thank you, Councillor Breeny. We're not seeing you at the moment. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Deputy Mayor Woods?
Thank you, Mayor. I wouldn't mind saying a couple of words. It's long overdue and timely that we get this going, and to be at risk of losing the funding isn't an ideal position to be in. So I fully and wholeheartedly support this motion just to get this going.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to say anything?
Councillor Arnold? I agree totally.
Yes, Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree totally with the Deputy Mayor. This has just been ongoing for so long and we cannot risk losing any degree of funding for it. I'd like to, so I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments or suggestions for or against?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Breeny.
Do I hear Councillor Breeny? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. One of the things that I'm aware of is that the intersection that's been spoken about in this contract is probably one of the first that you hit when you come into Tribunna, and it's really unfortunate to have that very poorly designed. I presume it's something that's been carried over from a track along the foreshore in past, but to be able to get this thing fixed up is going to make the entry into Tribunna with the gatehouse and now this new intersection much more acceptable, and also it'll make the new location of the Cenotaph something that the town can be proud of as well. Not detracting, of course, from the fact that the gatehouse is quite an entry statement. This has been going on for a long time, and to find that it was, the abandonment of it could end up losing drought funding and road to recovery funds and deferring other projects, etc. It's really unfortunate that this wasn't taken on earlier, and thank you for getting it moving, directors. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour? I put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Aye. Carried unanimously. Next item is 8.8, I think. The Audit Panel.
Councillor Arnold.
There have been some. Yes, Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move that Council 1 appoint Mrs Heather Salisbury to the role of Audit Panel Chairperson until 31st of December 2023 and confirms the remuneration set at the 15th of December 2020 Council meeting of $1,110 for each Audit Panel meeting chaired. 2, appoints Mr Mike Derbyshire as Independent Panel Member until the 30th of September 2022 and confirms the remuneration set at the 15th of December 2020 Council meeting for an Independent Panel Member of $495 for each meeting attended. And 3, will commence a process to appoint a new Independent Panel member to ensure continuity of a second Independent Panel Member. I think
Thank you very much. Is there?
Sorry, I think there's actually
Is that
some.
right?
I think I'd like to add, we'll commence a process by no later than June 2022 to appoint a new independent panel member.
Is there a seconder?
Yes, I'll second that. Councillor Churchill.
Thank you very much, Councillor Churchill. Councillor Arnold, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor. I think it's fairly self-explanatory from the report that was written as to why this has come through to Council from the Audit Panel, and I would just ask Council to support the changes.
Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, that's exactly the process that we need. Thank you, Councillor Arnold.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on the motion? Well, that
Sorry.
being the case, I put them. I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, we just need to note the changed motion 3 in the recommendation.
Yes, I've noted that. Have
So
you noted it, Minute
So
Secretary?
that's Councillor Arnold's comment to include by June 2022.
Yeah, if I may, Mayor, I just think that the last recommendation, we will commence a process. When will we commence the process? I'm just suggesting that there should be a timeline in there so that we have a new independent member in, because I know when we went through the process before, it did take some time to actually get an independent member for the audit panel. So I think that's the only reason I would say that we commence the process by no later than June 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Arnold. That makes it abundantly clear. I put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? I declare the motion carried unanimously. Now, next item is 8.9, minutes of the Glamorgan Spring Bay Audit Panel. I don't know whether anyone's got... Yes, I seek a motion.
Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods.
I'll move that Council receives and notes the attached minutes of the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council Audit Panel meeting held on the 30th of November 2021.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Yes, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Woods, do you wish to speak to the minutes or not?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Robinson, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, it's fairly clear.
If that's the case, I put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
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 Against? Carried unanimously. Now, there are no notices of motion, item 9. There are no petitions, item 10. There are no questions from councillors.
Questions on notice. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, there's no questions on notice from the councillors. That's 11.1.
Yes. And there are no questions without notice? I'm asking a question.
No.
No. Well, I think it now comes to the question of, I think we have to close this session, if my memory serves me right, and then open in closed session. I seek a motion that, please go on.
Sorry, Mayor, you're not closing the general meeting. We're just moving a motion that council moves into the closed session at 3:11 p.m.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Arnold. I accept that as a motion. Any seconder?
Yes, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. I put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Would Minutes Secretary, Officer Jasmine Murray, let us know when we can start talking about closed session?